Hi, I'm Zack Wheat, and here are my games of 2013. What can be said about Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon that has not yet been screamed from the rooftops with an 80s techno beat in the background? This weird little experiment, seemingly announced on April Fool's Day and causing us no end of disbelief at its existence even now, is a big bundle of affection for the glory days of sci-fi action flicks, and it's great. From a technical perspective, Blood Dragon is a neon coat of paint over the directly lifted mechanics of the already pretty great Far Cry 3, but judging this game from a technical perspective is to do the game and yourself a disservice. Sergeant Rex Power Cult's journey in the name of honor, vengeance, and the American way is the perfect balance of action and comedy, and brings both home with an aesthetic seen rarely in this industry. No other game this year has made me laugh as hard or given me as many memorable quotes as Blood Dragon, and that it comes with the tense and occasionally thrilling Far Cry 3 gameplay is all the better. Blood Dragon is easy to recommend on so many levels because it hits so many notes perfectly. It breaks the fourth wall just the right way at just the right times. The game makes great references without making the player feel like a dummy if they don't get it. And most of all, its presentation of the glory days of action cinema are done with a wink and a smile that brings it all home. Crazy. That word is the one which pops into my head every time I play the Wonderful 101. Be it the character designs, to the climactic events, to the flow of combat, the Wonderful 101 is crazy. It's an idea that shouldn't even slightly work, but somehow does. Control up to 100 characters in a genre revolving around timing and precision? How could it have been so fun, so engrossing, so addictive? How could it work into such an awesome whole like it does? It's crazy. Channeling the fun of old superhero shows into the style and gameplay Platinum Games is known for is so much fun that it seems like it should have been obvious. It explodes. Explodes with color, with humor, with style. It is self-aware and postmodern in ways I wasn't expecting at all. It's crazy. And the game's explosion of personality is no small part in why it deserves a spot on this list. The Wonderful 101 understands that even if a story isn't deep, that doesn't mean its characters and world can't be meaningful and memorable. Tied together with an unexpectedly strong voice cast, the Wonderful 101 stand amongst my favorite new characters introduced this year and represent one of 2013's biggest surprises. If Nintendo continues to embrace experiences like the Wonderful 101, we're at the very least in store for some awesome stuff. The Splinter Cell franchise has faced an identity crisis since the release of Double Agent, split between the cinematic action of its competitors or the slow-moving stealth of its predecessors. The decidedly action-focused elements of Conviction, however entertaining I may have found them, seem to do away with this as a premier stealth franchise. Splinter Cell Blacklist's answer to the question of what should this game be is thus an interesting one. It chooses to be everything, and somehow it largely succeeds. I can't think of many other games this year which openly offered the player 3 different ways to approach the entire game. What games I can think of with divergent paths didn't pull them all off as well? The level design in Blacklist is so strong that it is the most eminently enjoyable and replayable stealth game in recent memory, and your character's mobility keeps the momentum from slowing down if you don't want it to. A great stealth game has a great pace, and Blacklist puts you in control of the pace in order to match up with what you want out of the experience. Experimenting with the different styles is consistently fun. The progression systems are a very welcome new addition which were incredibly satisfying, and special mention goes out to the side missions. First, for merely existing in such a classically linear genre, and second, for being so good. The plot isn't amazing on the whole, but it's strong within the field of Tom Clancy games, and the characters make up for the two-dimensionality by being memorable. The controversy over Sam's dip in the Lazarus pit is impossible to avoid, and Michael Ironside is missed. But don't let that stop you from trying out one of the single most consistently entertaining and engrossing games of this year. With Arkham City, Rocksteady created one of my favorite games of its generation. WB Montreal had incredibly large shoes to fill with their prequel, and what they created is, while not on that level of brilliance, a game which weaves a great tale of the night which made Batman legend. Gotham City on Christmas Eve is rich with atmosphere, from the soundtrack to the snow-covered streets, and the feeling of strangeness that this is a largely grounded world, not yet driven mad by Batman and his rogues gallery, is a note in the developer's favor in my eyes. To Gotham City, thugs are just thugs, cops are crooked, and Batman is a nightmare only whispered of in urban legends. Every story beat consistently builds upon this idea and this premise, and it all just works. Taken according to what it's trying to do, I felt Batman Arkham Origins was a thrilling romp through a city in the grips of the vile, told from the perspective of an angry, dangerous young man split on what he actually is to the world. Roger Craig Smith's performance as a young Bruce is so strong that I would firmly hope for his succession if Kevin Conroy ever hangs up the cowl, and he perfectly handles the emotional peaks where the character is taken over the course of his journey. The side quests are strong here, just as they were in Arkham City. I loved the introduction of side crime scenes, and I hope that that's something Rocksteady picks up on and greatly expands in Arkham 4. That is symbolic of the whole, actually. Arkham Origins is not the jump we saw and felt between Asylum and City, but where it takes the franchise is an exciting look towards the future, where Rocksteady picks the reins back up and moves on from what WB Montreal created will be fascinating to see, because Arkham Origins is one of the most compelling games of this year. Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag is truly an epic. No other game this year left me so happily lost within my desire to explore and adventure. No other game made me thrilled to pick the controller back up and go out on a journey like it did. This is a game I would dive into and lose myself for hours without so much as touching the main story, and that is what I want from video games. There are complicated and important discussions to be had about what Black Flag means for the Assassin's Creed franchise, but when I'm upgrading my ship and exploring wrecks and doing assassination contracts and going deep-sea diving and collecting shanties and hunting and managing my fleet and taking over forts and fighting legendary ships and having the time of my life, I do not care even a tiny bit. This game is fun, and that so much happens without a loading screen makes me very happy about what this new generation will be able to accomplish. There is a mind-boggling amount of content here, so much that it's one of those games unquestionably worth the asking price and then some, and all of it's polished and fun. The story takes time to get going, and that it throws people is its greatest loss. Edward Kenway is a far cry from the stoic, one-note, perpetually angry Connor, and in many ways returns us to the arc which was so captivating for Ezio. He is a selfish man, driven by immature desires and foolish ideals, and because of that he loses so much. While Ezio may have been pushed into a new life by forces beyond his control, Edward was dragged into them in spite of his own failing. The real-world missions were, for the first time, incredibly interesting to me. Ubisoft assaults the fourth wall like it ran over their dog, leading to a hub of surprising bits of information teased out to the player over the course of the journey. Never before in an Assassin's Creed game did I wonder excitedly about when I would be pulled out of the Animus to take a look around, but it was worth it here. Black Flag is on this list because it's fun, and man did I need that after some of this year's releases. I am very, very happy that Platinum Games did not let Metal Gear Rising die. From the ashes of a project which lacked direction and was on its way out, came this, a game so fast and so brutal and so fun to play and master. Revengeance is a stylish action title unlike any other, and through its polish, depth, and challenge is the only true successor to Bayonetta and Devil May Cry. It is sharp and blisteringly difficult in all the right ways, but growth within its systems and success despite the odds provides one of the most thrilling experiences of the year. New layers to the combat unfold naturally, but like every great challenging game, Revengeance can only be toppled not through upgrades, but through player experience. The game demands to be replayed as steady advancement through the difficulty levels reveals its hand more and more. Fun combat becomes precise, balletic displays of violence, and the pretty cool boss battles evolve into truly brilliant ones. Seriously, these are some of the strongest boss battles created by a company with a history of pretty great boss battles, and the way they layer the soundtrack bit by bit is ingenious. This is not Metal Gear Solid, and it's never ever trying to be. Accepting that fact and opening oneself up to the knowledge that it is hopefully the first installment to the new master of stylish action games is worth it. Until Bayonetta 2 releases, of course. Dear Saints Row 4, thank you. Thank you for taking an industry of seriousness and gravity and providing the silly, stupid, cathartic experience which we've all needed. Thank you for never feeling the need to explain yourself, never stopping, never pausing to ask if you've gone too far, done too much, gotten too crazy. Thank you for having such great, pointed pokes at the industry and enough charm to get away with it. Thank you for reminding me why I play video games in the first place. Your love letters to longtime fans of the series left me feeling greatly appreciated. If this is a send-off, it's a perfectly self-reflective one. Your characters and world have come into their own and stand as iconic representations of what it means to put fun first. You are not like anything else, and you're better off for it. The introduction of superpowers could not have been less expected, and that's great. They just work and kick off a great system of progression, which is addictive and rewarding. This is a game in which mere traversal is a ton of fun, and I wish I was able to say that more often. Thank you, Saints Row 4, for simply being one of the best games of 2013. I wish there were more games like Fire Emblem Awakening. It is a tactical game of both quiet strategizing and breathless tension while waiting to see what will happen next. It is charming and funny one minute and a great tale the next. You will fall in love with the characters, craft families and friendship and dynamics, and for that reason you will give everything you have to make sure you never have to feel the pain of their loss. I sank so much time into Fire Emblem and I never even realized it. Some magical combination of love for the cast and love of each combat scenario kept me too enthralled to let it go for long, and so I never did. It made me feel something, I realize, even if its story, while strong, wasn't as deep as some of us hope to see out of our RPGs. The leads of this story are charming, and we want to see them through the adventure. The gameplay requires chess-like planning in and out of battle and enough micromanaging that you'll sink plenty of time into that alone. It's difficult to word why it's so great, as is often the case with tactical games, but when you triumph over what appeared to be a losing battle and take a breather by spending time with your characters, you'll feel attached to the game like few others released this year. Fire Emblem Awakening is a perfect example of how this industry can suck us into the fantastical while engaging us with great gameplay. A confused and slightly disturbing marketing campaign put me off of Tomb Raider for some while leading up to its release, but I'm very, very happy I tried it anyway. For me, it was my second favorite game released this year. A dark journey through what it takes to reshape a human being. What Tomb Raider lacks in a fleshed-out cast, it makes up for in the best characterization we could ask for of a video game icon in desperate need of reinvention. Camilla Luddington's performance finds something earnest in Lara, which no writer bothered to dig in for as the series struggled in the past. Crystal dynamics no longer restrained from an overarching narrative few cared about, gives us an island of madness and an adventure which would forever change a legendary character and forever change our perspective of her universe. Credit must be given to the game's many, many collectibles, all of which build the world and characters in interesting ways. A trip through the game collecting all there is to find reveals Yamatai's true depths and dark history, and tells tales of the unfortunate souls who have fallen victim to its whims. Of this, I hope to see much more in the future. Investigating artifacts and flipping through old documents and journals is much more interesting to me than half listening to audio log. The gameplay is tight, with third-person combat that always hinges on preparation and thought ahead of sticking to a single piece of cover and holding off a wave. Something always goes wrong, cover always gets blown, bad guys always flank you, and Lara's mobility always makes for complex battles which reach across all different levels of terrain. The tombs are too few, yes, but the puzzles which break up the action are welcome and clever, and man, is it a beautiful game when you're given time to breathe. Tomb Raider is an excellent reinvention, and it simply cannot be missed. Ace Attorney Dual Destinies for the Nintendo 3DS is my favorite game of 2013. It contains a cast of characters I loved throughout, an overarching story which rivals that of the series' best, and it mixes up perspectives and themes with doses of brilliance that make it consistently greater than anything else I played this year. The series has always faced identity issues, with designs that had most Western opinions writing it off as farce, and core plotting which kept a balance of drama and comedy that confused some. But Dual Destinies swings harder for the dramatic side, particularly towards the end. The villains here are bad people, driven by greed and anger or motives and psychoses beyond our comprehension, and the reflection of the game world's sad state in the plot is perfect. Athena, our new protagonist, faces issues which we aren't used to within an already colorful cast, and makes for emotionally gripping revelations which the series hasn't explored before. It is fun and it is sad. It is a thrill and it's calming. Ace Attorney Dual Destinies touches on more emotions than just sadness. It is an experience, a lengthy one, of anger and grief, but great levity. It makes you feel, it makes you connect through the different sides you see of everyone, even if the characters you connect with are quirky and outlandish at first blush. The soundtrack is roundly excellent, and it's impossible to not be impressed with the seamless move to 3D models from a legacy of 2D artwork. This game honors and lives up to a much-beloved series in a way few could have expected, and I, for one, could not have loved it more. Like a great mystery novel, I simply could not put the thing down, and as a longtime fan of the franchise, I was surprised to see how the series formula was toyed with. For its ability to touch on every emotion I could feel, for doing something decidedly different from the rest of the industry and doing it very, very well, for a presentation brought to life in a delightfully different way even from its predecessors, and for being absolutely captivating, Ace Attorney Dual Destinies is my game of 2013. And there you have it, my games of 2013. It's been a very interesting year for video games, many ups and downs and ups, and Microsoft being Microsoft, but I suspect we're in for a pretty cool year next year. 2014 is a sexier number than 2013 anyway.